Just a quick update, the Patreon page is now live. The link will be down below if you want to check it out. You'll have access to all of my betting packages and much more. Thanks again for all the support, but for now, let's get into the video.
What's up, guys? We're back, and this week it's for a great card, or I don't know, I say that every week. This one, maybe I should draw that back a little bit and say, this one's for a pretty good card. It's, every card for me, has some good matchups, but it's definitely, on paper, a weaker card for sure. Still, like I said, there's some good spots to bet on. There's some fun fights to watch, and gonna break down the whole card like always, but first, want to give a big shout out to my sponsor for this video, and that is EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They've been doing really well recently. In the last 7 months, they're up 66 units on their best bet profit. They're up 49 units on just MMA alone, and they've gained their customers $1,243. So I mean, right now they're doing $5.99 a month. You do that math, you're definitely making a very good amount of money. So they've been doing really well this year for all their clients, and friends don't let friends gamble without math. You see the analytics in their name. They're really good with all the analytics, all the stats, everything you want to dig into. They give you a really, really good idea of why they're betting on the person that they're betting on, and then the results are obviously there as well. So definitely check them out. EquitySportsAnalytics.com. They're some of the best handicappers in the game right now. They're doing all sports as well, not just MMA, so you could get a variety there. So definitely check them out, EquitySportsAnalytics.com. Big shout out to them for sponsoring the video. And then right before we get started, I just want to give a big shout out to everyone that's on the Patreon right now. We're 6 for 6 so far in the Contender Series, so definitely feel like you guys should check it out if you haven't. We won a decent amount of money yesterday. It was pretty good. We've been doing pretty well on the UFCs recently as well, so hopefully we can keep that momentum going and keep giving out good picks, good content for you guys. So make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Really appreciate all the support. And let's get into this first fight of the night. We got Charlie Ontiveros taking on Steve Garcia. Both these guys are going to be looking to get their first UFC win. And with Steve Garcia, he is back after about a 1.5 year layoff, so he hasn't fought in a while. Last time we saw him, he had that short notice debut in the UFC against Luis Pena, and he kind of just got backpacked the whole fight. He didn't really show a lot of his skill set in that one. And he usually is a featherweight, but once again for this one, he's decided to stay up here at 155. He's going to be taking on a really big guy, too, in Charlie Ontiveros. But Garcia is the favorite, and it's because he has the more superior resume. You see he has some pretty good wins. He beat Sean Bunch, who's a credentialed wrestler, good MMA guy. He beat Ken Moy. He beat Ronnie Lawrence, who's in the UFC. Andrew Whitney. He beat Desmond Torres. Jose Mariscal. So he has some pretty good wins. He has had several Bellator fights. He's fought in the Contender Series. So if he's not ready for the UFC, and he loses 2 in a row, he's probably never going to be ready. So he needs to come out here and show why he was signed and why he wants to continue fighting in the promotion. And he's an aggressive striker. He throws a ton of volume. He tries to drown and kind of take fighters out late or early. He just kind of tries to drown fighters with that big volume. And he has some power as well. He has a good long jab. Usually he has a really big reach and height advantage in his fights, especially at featherweight. Obviously you see there he's 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, but this fight he's not necessarily going to have that. But he does a good job of using the jab to punch his way into range for the 1-2 or the jab overhand right. He has a good jab uppercut. And on the inside he's effective. He lets his hands go. He'll attack the body. He has a pretty good kicking game as well. He'll attack head kicks. He'll attack with good knees as well, up the middle, up to the head, to the body. And he's always coming forward. He brings the war. And it does leave him available to be hit, but he's shown good durability so far in his career. He, is heavy on his lead leg, so that's something that he needs to deal with. Check the leg kicks or counter off the leg kicks. But leg kicks have been effective against Garcia in the past. If Ontiveros knocks him out, though, he is going to be the first fighter to knock out Steve Garcia, so it's going to be a tough task there. And Garcia is definitely more about volume, but he has 8 knockouts in his 11 wins, so he has finished a majority of his fights. As a grappler, that's where he usually struggles. Most of his losses came against wrestlers. He lost to Joe Warren, who obviously is a really good fighter. He's an elite wrestler, former Bellator champion. Got submitted by Alon Cruz, who had a subpar run in the UFC. Luis Pena was able to kind of backmount him for almost the entire fight. And Garcia definitely gives his back to stand up. He has a decent guard, and his takedown defense looks like it's improving, but he really needs to up his grappling if he wants to compete long-term in the UFC. Hopefully during this layoff he's addressed that a little bit. He doesn't really wrestle much, but when he can, stuff the takedown of a tired opponent or drop them and get on top, he is an aggressive finisher there. He has good ground and pound, no submissions in his career, so isn't a big submission threat. And his cardio is a weapon for him. He brings it and definitely pushes the pace. Fun guy to watch. And Charlie Ontiveros is going to be his second UFC fight, and big change for him, man. I mean, he debuted at middleweight against Kevin Holland. Obviously, that fight didn't go well for him. He got finished in the first round via slam, where he hurt his neck and kind of verbal tapped. And he obviously must have felt he was way too small in that fight, because he's moving all the way from 185 to 155 for this matchup. And this is going to be the first time Ontiveros has ever dropped down to lightweight in his career. He's fought almost all his fights at welterweight. And throughout his career, he's kind of the perfect example of, liking to be the hammer, but can't really be the nail. He's a great athlete. He's long, he's rangy, and at 155 pounds, man, if he can make the weight, he'll be a big, imposing figure. And he's very, very athletic. I mean, he throws very fast, straight punches, nice kicks. With the hands, he mainly just looks for the 1-2. His kicking game is more diverse because he can throw kicks from both stances. He'll attack the body. He'll throw heavy low kicks. He'll throw lead leg side kicks to the head, axe kicks, hook kicks, spinning kicks. He's has the whole arsenal with the kicking game. He'll mix in some flying knees, and he's gotten finishes with that attack before. He has some power, and you have to be careful. I mean, his last win, he landed a check hook. It was a one-punch knockout. He has a flying knee win against Derek Agde. And the issue with Ontiveros is just he has very little head movement, really relies on his speed and on his reach, and he holds his hands low, pulls back with his chin high. And he wants to be in the center of the cage or going forward, and he doesn't really do well getting pressured. And when he gets tired, he'll start to get more static, start to stand against the fence a little bit more, stay in range to be hit a little bit more. He's also susceptible to low kicks himself, and most of his fights end early. 7 of his last 8 fights have ended in the first round. He does have a tendency to kind of check out when fights get tough. I've seen him do his credit in his fight with Chris Lopez. He did get dropped. He almost was finished at the end of the first round, but he did recover and took a decision in that one. But in other fights, his toughness just hasn't been there. He's been finished by rib injury multiple times in his career, and all of his losses are by KO TKO. Been finished by strikes 7 times. 4 times he got finished in the first round. And after first round, Ontiveros becomes less dangerous, less volume. He sits around and kind of waits for fighters to make a mistake and tries to capitalize on it. And he definitely has power, so I think obviously in all of his fights, especially now that he's dropping down to this 55s weight class, if he could bring the power and bring that speed, he definitely has a chance to get those flash knockouts early in the fight. But he's not a grappler. He likes to stay on the outside, pick at fighters with his long kicks and punches. His defensive grappling is not very good. He could be taken down pretty easily. Seemed very weak in the clinch, and maybe that's going to change now that he's coming down to 155. But Kevin Holland, who's obviously not known to be a good grappler, slammed Ontiveros on his head and made him suffer a neck injury, which ended the fight. I've seen him get taken down and dominated in other fights, Ontiveros. I don't really see either guy trying to grapple much in this matchup, so in that sense, it is a solid matchup for Ontiveros. And Ontiveros, cardio-wise, I think does slow down. So against a cardio guy like Steve Garcia, he needs to come in here in shape and be ready to endure some punishment and some pain. And this is a tricky fight to call because Ontiveros is a big, explosive, powerful guy that fought at welterweight, fought at middleweight. Now he's fighting a guy that's a former featherweight, fighting at 55. So if you can connect flush on a shot early, you can definitely put out Garcia. And Garcia's hittable. In this scenario, though, Garcia is the one that's never been finished. He's tough. He brings the action, the volume. He's Mexican. And I just got to roll with him here to bring a war and end Ontiveros, probably in the first or second round. I just think you can never be too confident on Garcia against a guy like Charlie because Ontiveros does have that KO opportunity. And Garcia hasn't fought in a while, so I wouldn't advise that play at minus 300. but I just feel like he's the tougher guy and he brings it, and I think he's going to be able to land some body shots or land some big shots up top that Ontiveros doesn't like too much and kind of makes him check out. So going to go with Steve Garcia to get the win and get the finish inside the distance here, most likely by knockout. And up next here, we got Lupita Godinez taking on Silvana Juarez, and fun fight here in a short notice matchup that's very good. Lupita Godinez is actually going to take on Sam Hughes in an interesting fight because they had actually already fought twice. They had a draws in amateurs, and then Lupita Godinez actually won the second fight that they had as amateurs. But Hughes, I think, had COVID protocol issues. She had to pull out, and she's getting replaced here by Silvana Juarez, who, if you look at her just on paper here and you're looking, she's 36 years old. She's coming in on short notice. You could think, okay, maybe it's an easy win for Lupita Godinez. But if you look a little bit deeper, Juarez was supposed to fight on next Tuesday on the Contender Series. So only pushing it up a little bit. It was going to be a straw weight as well, so she was going to make the cut. Sometimes she does fight at higher weight classes, and she is going to have the size advantage in this one. And she's definitely a good fighter. She obviously was on the UFC's radar. She was on Contender Series. She trains out at Entrim Gym in Mexico, which has Brandon Moreno, Marcelo Rojo, and all those really good fighters over there that are training over there, especially the girls as well. Alexa Grasso, they got Irene Aldana. So definitely getting some good work in. And both these girls are strikers. Lupita Godinez, she's more of a just pure boxer. She wants to get on the inside and throw big hooks over the top and big overhand, stay in your face, throwing combination. Whereas Juarez is going to want to be on the outside. She has really nice low kicks. She has very good technique, actually, good footwork. She throws a real nice jab, good 1-2s. And she's going to want to keep Godinez on the outside, work her leg kicks, work her long strikes, try to counter Godinez as she closes the gap. And, try to make her pay for closing that distance, work the leg kicks early and often, try to slow down that movement. And then if you could really start to make Godinez a little bit slower with the leg kicks, not get her to pressure as much, that's where I think Juarez could potentially take over the fight by going forward, using her feints, and stay on the outside and countering, using her long strikes to land first. And the thing with Juarez that Godinez is going to want to take advantage of is Juarez, even though she has good head movement, sometimes after she throws punches, she can kind of stay there a little bit, and she doesn't move her head much at all. So you do see girls kind of land over the top, or girls that can pressure her and throw in combination can connect. We saw her eye got shut in the first round of her last fight. And Godinez is usually pretty good at that. She's good at coming forward and putting some flurries together, throwing some nice shots over the top, and she's pretty aggressive. So to me, this is a pretty close fight, though. I mean, money line wise, I definitely think the value is on Silvana, because even though, like I said, she's coming in on quasi short notice, it's only a few days, and both these girls are going to strike. Juarez, does have a loss to Ariane Lipsky and Paulina Botelho, but both those fights are at 125 pounds. This is obviously down at 115. She's undefeated at this weight class. So I definitely think Juarez is a live dog, but I'm going to pick Godinez still. I just think that she might grit it out by just coming forward, landing some big shots over the top, and being a little bit more aggressive with her volume and her combinations. I think that Godinez obviously is in the more dire straight scenario with losing her first UFC fight. She definitely is going to fight hard to try to pick this one up, whereas Juarez is getting a big opportunity here where she thought she was going to have to fight her way into the UFC, and now she's getting her first UFC fight right away. So I'm not going to say she's going to lax, because I feel like obviously she's going to be very excited for her UFC debut, and she's almost 37, so she knows she has to get going. But I just think that Godinez might edge it out down the stretch in a really close fight, though. So I feel like Juarez is a good underdog, maybe to target. I think she could get the win, but I'm going to pick Lupita Godinez by decision. And in this next one, we got two kind of middling guys in the featherweight division here with Charles Rosa and Damon Jackson. Both these guys are veterans at this point. They're obviously very seasoned. They've seen it all, and they're going to have a fun fight. Damon Jackson, he had a good return to the UFC where he beat Mirsad Bektic as a big underdog. but then he ran into a buzzsaw, and Ilia Topuria didn't really go well for him. He actually was doing okay. He was landing some strikes in the first round, but, Topuria eventually landed some big shots over the top, some big body shots, kind of crumbled Damon Jackson, knocked him out, and Jackson has been flatlined now 3 times in his career pretty badly. So, obviously you have to question his chin a little bit at this point, but he's facing a veteran in Charles Rosa, but not necessarily a guy that has a lot of power, is known to knock you out. So, in that sense, it's a good, return matchup here for Jackson. And Charles Rosa, he continued the trend of his win-loss. Since joining the UFC in 2014, he's, won one, lost one in every single one of his fights. And he was able to beat Justin James in a really close fight. Kind of a typical Charles Rosa fight where he had to struggle through some adversity and then come back, win a dog fight. And, in this one, I think it's another matchup that's fairly close because Charles Rosa, in my opinion, on the feet is going to have a big speed advantage. But Rosa doesn't really have great power. He doesn't really have the best boxing or hands either. So unless, he can connect on a cross down the middle that really stuns Jackson and takes him out, I feel like Jackson's pressure is going to be able to get him on the inside. And Rosa likes to work a lot of kicks. I think that those could get him taken down as they have in the past. Jackson has fairly good boxing as well. I feel like he is at a disadvantage on the feet. Rosa will be able to win if it's a kickboxing match for 15 minutes. But I think that Jackson, he has a long reach. And, he throws long, straight shots. So he's good at, setting up his takedowns with his 1-2s. And we've seen in the past that Rosa doesn't have great takedown defense, and when he gets put on his back, he is dangerous with his guard. You have to respect his triangles, his arm bars, and he's always trying to throw something up, trying to create a scramble, get on top, but very, very kind of complacent to play jiu-jitsu, and that's gotten him a few of his recent losses against Bryce Mitchell, against Derek Minner, and he's facing a guy that's named the Leech, man, and it's for a reason. I mean, Damon Jackson is trying to get a hold of you in the clinch, trip you. He's trying to land that double leg. He has pretty good timing on it. And when he gets on top, he finds the legs. He tries to kind of slowly get into a dominant position. Very methodical, great top control, and really good chokes. I mean, he has a great squeeze when he can get his arm around the neck. And, he's just a very proficient kind of, just slow, methodical grappler. And the majority of his losses, 3 of his 4 losses, have came against guys that have had big knockout power. With Topuria, with Mavli Kabalayev landing that flying knee on him. And then Kevin Aguilar obviously has some power, and he knocked him out. And both these guys fought Kevin Aguilar, and I feel like Damon Jackson was winning the fight until he got caught. He lost the first round, won the second, and was winning the third. But I feel like he fought a better version of Kevin Aguilar. It was Aguilar on a winning streak. Rosa fought an Aguilar that missed weight, that was a little out of shape, was coming off losses. So I don't think you could read into that too much like the MMA math thing. So I'm actually going to go with Damon Jackson. I just think this is a bad matchup for Rosa. We've seen it in the past. He doesn't do well with guys with good wrestling and good top control that can avoid the submission game of Rosa, and I feel like that's what Jackson could do. I don't think Rosa has necessarily that knockout power to threaten Jackson and knock him out, or I don't think he really has the technical enough striking to keep him at range for 15 minutes. But, with Rosa, if you look at it, plus 1,200 to him to win by knockout, I guess it's not the worst bet in the world because Damon Jackson has been knocked out a few times in his career, and Damon Jackson is the slight favorite. So, the pick for me is going to be Damon Jackson via decision, though. And in this next one, we got the biggest favorite on the card with Alexander Romanov taking on Jared Vanderaa. And I don't really have a big breakdown for this one. I mean, we got a guy that's minus 600 favorite for a reason, Alexander Romanov, who is coming off a win, but in my opinion, I thought Juan Espino won that fight, and the way that it ended with Romanov kind of getting grazed with a real small, nut shot, and then calling off the fight, and then them giving him the win, I thought was all very strange. So I think the UFC maybe saw that, and they're like, we like this guy, let's give him Jared Vanderaa. Because you've heard of the past, I mean, you heard Ben Rothwell come out there and Tanner Boser, right? And they come out and they said, we asked for Jared Vanderaa, and, the UFC was laughing at us. So, I don't know. I guess that maybe tells you what they think about Jared Vandera's level. They're giving him to Romanov, so it definitely kind of tells you what's up. And, so does the money line, obviously. And we saw Jared Vandera's debut in the UFC where Sergey Spivak was able to take him down and really dominate him in top position, finish him with ground and pound. And Romanov is a guy that obviously isn't the most polished striker, and I don't think he has the greatest jiu-jitsu, and just overall, I don't think he's like a future world champion like some people do. But against Jared Vanderaa, I think he's going to look like a world beater, man. I think he's going to be able to get the takedown and get a submission or get the TKO with ground and pound. So I'm going to go with the big favorite here in Romanov, and I'd be surprised if people are picking Jared Vanderaa this week. And this next fight is a striker versus grappler matchup with Chris Gutierrez taking on Felipe Colares, and good fight. I mean, any fight that Felipe Colares is in, you got to give him some respect, man. I mean, this guy brings it. He, comes to fight, and definitely, you watch all his fights in the UFC, they're all wars, man. I mean, his last fight with Luke Sanders, I don't know how he survived that first round, but almost got finished, and we all know kind of Luke Sanders has a questionable gas tank, and Colares was able to take him down, grind him out the rest of the fight. And, if you watch the fight with Domingo Pilarte, it's a very fun back-and-forth fight. Even his fight with Montel Jackson, I mean, just to be able to hang in there, the guy's a warrior for sure. And had Jackson in a couple guillotines that were fairly tight. But with Chris Gutierrez, we got a guy that has been doing very well in the UFC. He's unbeaten in his last 5 fights. And he's done well against higher level competition than Colares has been facing recently. So in my opinion, it's kind of a bit of a step down, but it's I think the UFC is kind of trying to test Gutierrez because they gave him Cody Durden, and Cody Durden was able to get the takedown, get the back in the first round, control that position for the entire round essentially, and get a draw. So we've seen Gutierrez kind of struggle with grapplers a little bit. Obviously Durden is a guy that is a 125er as well, and Felipe Colares is coming down from 145, so he's a very big guy. So I think some people are, kind of counting out Colares a little bit, but, it's pretty easy to cap this fight or to break it down. We got Colares who's going to be trying to get the takedown, probably get the back of Gutierrez, or we've seen Gutierrez struggle in the past, and look for that rear naked choke, or just look to keep that back control. And we're going to have Gutierrez looking to work his kicks, primarily the leg kicks, work his counter-punching, his movement, trying to be really slick on the outside. And I just feel like Gutierrez is the proper side here because we've seen him fight some good wrestlers in the past, like Cody Durden, for instance. And after that first round, when he got his range, he really started to beat him up and land some big strikes. And we've seen him get wins over guys like Timur Valiev. So I feel like Gutierrez, even though he does have a rear naked choke loss to Raoni Barcelos, even though, Cody Durden gave him a little bit of a scare in that first round, and he does have a loss to Timur Valiev as well. I just feel like in this one he's going to be able to use his striking, move around on the outside, pick at Colares. Colares is very hittable. I think the speed is going to be on the side of Gutierrez, and I think the footwork is going to be the big edge for him. I think he's going to be able to move around, use his kicks, walk him into strikes, and kind of get that decision win here. So I'm going to go with Chris Gutierrez in this one. And up next here we got Phil Hawes taking on Deron Winn. And man, here we go. This is where I might lose a couple people because I'm going to go with Deron Winn in this one again. I mean, his last fight, I bet on Deron Winn, and he got the victory there against Antonio Arroyo. He was a big underdog. I mean, I know people now, they, shit on Arroyo, and they're probably like, oh, it was a horrible win or blah, blah, blah. But, when he beat Antonio Arroyo, I think he was like a plus 180 or plus 180 underdog or something like that. So he definitely was not being picked to win by very many people. But Phil Hawes, it's a guy that I actually haven't been picking, and I'm not going to pick him again. So it's like, kind of, do I want to jump on the train now that he's gotten 3 wins in a row? And I did pick him against the guy that he debuted against, Jacob Malkoun, but I picked Imavov, who I actually thought Imavov won that fight, but it was very close. And then his fight against Kyle Dawkins, I picked Dawkins as well. So been kind of going against Phil Hawes, and he's been proving me wrong. But, if this spot was like an even money line, I would probably pick Phil Hawes, or I would almost certainly pick Phil Hawes. But with that line, I feel like it's kind of ridiculous, man. I mean, I feel like people are giving Phil Hawes a lot of unwarranted credit, because you see, his fights, and he does have solid striking, like he is good at, keeping it along with it. He has good leg kicks. He'll throw the jab out there, and he has some power in his overhands, but he's still very wild. And I feel like he has a lot of guys in his fights that want to keep it on the outside. They don't want to pressure him, and they want to kind of, avoid that clinch and the grappling, whereas I think Deron Winn is going to invite that. He's going to want to clinch up with Phil Hawes, test his cardio, test his wrestling, and I think that he's going to be able to have the edge there. I feel like Deron Winn is going to be the better grappler. I think he's going to be able to, get takedowns if they wrestle, or I think if they clinch up, I think Winn could potentially get the better of, those positions. And Phil Hawes on the feet, I'm just not sold on him over 3 rounds being able to, stay on the outside and, pick at Deron Winn, keep it at a slow pace. I feel like Deron Winn, his striking is a little underrated, even though obviously he's 5'6" and is going to be at a 7.5-inch reach disadvantage here. When you look at it, Phil Hawes is 6 feet tall. He's one of the shorter middleweights. He's going to be one of the smaller guys that Deron Winn has faced in his career. Honestly, it really is. I mean, when you look at his losses, I believe both Gerald Mearshart and who was the other guy he lost to? Both Gerald Mearshart and Darren Stewart are over 6 feet tall, or they might be right around there as well. But I just feel like, Phil Hawes, I think that he's not as good as people think yet. I mean, maybe he's going to prove me wrong again. He's going to dominate Deron Winn and knock him out in the first round or something like that. He definitely has that capability. But Winn has shown good durability, and I feel like in his couple losses he had kind of bad matchups where he fought Darren Stewart, and it was a split decision. It was a really close fight, and in retrospect, I feel like he probably should have won that fight. But if you go back and you remember, I believe he missed weight for that fight. And, maybe he wasn't, being quite as disciplined back then. Because I feel like now, I may be reading into it a little too much. But he's training with, obviously, those really good guys over there at AKA. He has DC in his corner, everything like that. And maybe I feel like he's kind of... he looked in better shape to me. It looks like he's maybe going to come in and fight to his absolute best capabilities here. This is going to be a fun fight for Deron Winn. I mean, obviously, Phil Hawes is a wrestler as well. They've known each other since they were teenagers, and I think Deron Winn wants to go in there and get the win. I think he knows a lot of people are thinking he's not having any chance to get this victory here, and I feel like if he pressures, gets on the inside, works the body, works the head with his his hooks and his overhands, clinches up with Phil Hawes, tries to take him down, gets on top. We haven't seen Phil Hawes off his back really, and we have seen Phil Hawes submitted a couple times. So I just feel like Deron Winn has value at that number. I really feel like he's a little bit underrated. He obviously, people can underestimate him because of his size and how he looks compared to his opponents. But, I feel like he can get this win against Phil Hawes. I feel like it's a really close fight. I think it's going to be kind of very iffy on the scorecards, like a split decision even maybe. But I'm going to go with Deron Winn. I just feel like he has the value on the number on his side, and I'm going to pick Deron Winn here. And then in this next one, we got Mariya Agapova coming back. She's going to be taking on Sabina Mazo. And obviously, Mariya, I'm a fan. I did interview her and Randy Costa. So I think her, Steven Peterson, and Randy Costa are the 3 people I interviewed on my channel. And I'm not really a big fan of interviews like that. Like, I could probably, ask and get more and kind of mix it up a little bit. But, I just interviewed those 3 because when I kind of watched their fights before they were entering the UFC, I really liked their style, and I thought that they could join the UFC and have some really entertaining fights. And man, I feel like I was pretty right about at least all 3 of them, man. Steven Ocho, Mariya, and Randy Costa all came in, and they've had some awesome fights. I mean, win or lose, those 2 fights that Mariya had with Hannah Cyphers, she came in. That was a fun fight, man. That was a really good debut. I mean, if you think of all the debuts for women fighters in the UFC, I feel like that was one of the best ones. I mean, she landed that brutal head kick, took her out in the first round with the rear naked choke, jumped on the back, looked super vicious. And, that obviously set her up to be that minus 1,700 favorite in the second fight that she had in the UFC against Shayna Dobson. And I think she kind of, she let everything get to her head. I feel like she, she won that 50K bonus against Hannah Cifers. And she had some issues because she was having some rumors. I believe it was like Marina Rodriguez came out and was saying some things about her with ATT, where, I don't know if there's validity to those claims or not, but, obviously she went to MMA Masters now, and, she was getting interviewed by Brett Okamoto, and I feel like she just kind of maybe, underestimated Shayna a lot, was super kind of up, and, she was just moving here from Kazakhstan, and, I'm giving her a lot of excuses here, so I don't know if I would keep going, but it's like, I feel like, she just, whatever, she went out there and she blew her load in the first round and she got finished. So it's like she won that first round pretty dominantly and she just didn't have the cardio to keep going. So that's what she needs to address here. She has to kind of, still be that Mariya that goes for the kill, but really slow it down, be a little bit more tame, a little bit more composure, and don't, blow your cardio going for that finish early. And there's been fights where she's gone longer, and that's why I think it was more just everything, that I was saying before, rather than, her just having horrible cardio or something like that. And one thing about Mariya Agapova that I do like as well is you see how she looked when she was fighting in Kazakhstan and everything, and then how she's progressed to now. Even with that loss to Dobson, just her body, how she fights, her movement, everything about her has really leveled up pretty substantially, and she's always getting better. I mean, you could definitely tell that. So hopefully, this whole switch, everything with MMA Masters doesn't stunt that growth. But if she's still improving and getting better, I still am fairly bullish on Mariya. I still think she could be up there and competing with girls, in the top of the division one day. But Sabina Mazo is trying to be in that same place as well. They're both 24. They're almost exactly the same age. They're within less than 2 weeks apart. And Sabina Mazo suffered a loss her last fight against Alexis Davis. That was up at 135. She took that fight on short notice, upper weight class, and just got taken down and didn't really get anything going. And Alexis Davis was able to get the win there. But Mazo did win 3 fights in a row at 125 before that loss. And she's a striker as well. She had some hype on her before coming to the UFC because she had a couple head kick knockouts. So she's gotten some finishes as well. But Agapova is definitely, in my opinion, the much more dangerous fighter. And when I'm looking at this fight, I mean, early on, I do think Agapova is going to have a big advantage in terms of speed. I mean, I think she's way faster with both her feet, like her footwork, and her movement, I think, is just significantly better. Mazo's a little bit flat-footed. She inches forward and has a much more traditional Muay Thai kind of style. Mariya's jumping in and out. She's bouncing, and she's giving a lot of different looks. She'll switch stances, and I feel like Mariya's faster with her boxing and her kicks as well. And I think she could dart in, dart out, land some big shots on Mazo. Has very limited head movement. And Mazo does have a tendency to start slow in fights as well, and Agapova starts very fast. But Mazo has something about her. She's very tough, and she brings that cardio in the third rounds of a lot of her fights. She usually does well. So Agapova can't get overexcited if she's having a very good first round and start to, overexert herself physically. But I feel like it's going to be kind of a stand-up fight unless Agapova wants to go for the takedowns, which I think it would be smart to kind of mix it in, because if you get Mariya Agapova on top of you, she has some really good ground and pound, man. Some of the best ground and pound probably in the division, I would say. I mean, you see her outside of the UFC facing girls like Alexa Connors, Marilla Chocolate, Na Liang, who's now in the UFC, and she's able to really brutalize these girls, which she can get in top position with the elbows. And Mazo, she's shown a tendency to kind of be stuck on her back when she gets taken down. She'll body lock herself or body triangle herself from the full guard and kind of just look for elbows, and doesn't really have a big inclination to stand up to her feet. So that could kind of be a deterrent to her. In certain fights she could lose because of that, like in her fight with Davis and her fight with Marina Rodriguez. And I do feel like Agapova could get her down if she times it right, and it could be a smart game plan here. But Mazo is going to be looking to kind of counter that craziness of Agapova, start to find her timing, and then catch her with some straights coming in, try to maybe time that head kick on Agapova. Both these girls have really dangerous high kicks. And another thing, is Mazo is actually really good in that Muay Thai clinch. So that's something that she may try to do, try to wait till Agapova closes that gap, get in that Muay Thai clinch, work her knees to the body, work her elbows, and try to slow down Mariya a little bit. And they got Mazo as the slight favorite in this one. And I'm going to go with Mariya, though. I feel like Mariya Agapova is a little bit more dynamic, and I feel like she has more potential. I think she's faster, has a kind of better striking skill set with the movement. She's a little bit more dynamic. I think that she has a better grappling game as well. It's just she's going to have it all together up top, and if she's going to be, there cardio-wise, ready to go. So if those two things check out, I do think she can get the win, and so I'm going to go with Mariya Agapova here. And up next here we got Tim Elliott taking on Matheus Nicolau. Good fight, flyweight fight. Both these guys are ranked fighters. Both these guys are coming off wins. Matheus Nicolau, he came back in the UFC and had that really fun fight with Manel Kape. And actually, when I first watched it, I was thinking like everyone else, like it was a big robbery. But when you rewatch that fight, I mean, man, it was very close. Matheus Nicolau was landing some bombs in that third round, man. Really clean shots. Like, Manel Kape has a great chin, and Nicolau has improved significantly with the striking. So fluid, man. Real crisp, great movement, really good counter, super sharp. And the guy's really good, in my opinion. I feel like he's one of the better fighters, unheralded fighters in the division. He's big for the division. He, like I said, has great footwork, great counter striking. He's very fast, super sharp, tight. Everything he throws is with really good technique, nice kicks. He does a good job with his takedown defense. He can mix it up and hit takedowns. The grappling, defensive grappling, in some fights you have seen him, get taken down, like when he fought Pedro Noble. But that was at a higher weight class. I feel like at flyweight he has some good physicality. He's hard to take down. And both of his losses have been by knockouts, so maybe you could say his chin is a little bit suspect. But against Manel Kape, who's one of the best hitters in the division, he hung right in there, took some big shots. So I think Nicolau is kind of improving mentally as well, and kind of getting into his prime here at 28 years old. And then Tim Elliott, he's 34. He is a veteran. Obviously, he's been in the UFC for a long time, and he's coming off 2 wins in a row. He dominated his last opponent, Jordan Espinoza, and he's done well since moving to Glory MMA. He's gotten a connection with James Krause, and they've been working well together. And Elliott on the feet, obviously, kind of spastic, isn't really the best striker, but can be really real wild. He improved his boxing a little bit, so a little bit more technical. He's not as hittable, but still kind of real funky movement, kind of just tries to land some, weird striking to kind of set up his takedowns, and he's a really good grappler. He has good chain wrestling, solid submission game offensively, and, he does a good job grinding guys out when he comes in shape, but he has a tendency to kind of he can grapple himself into submission sometimes, like where he can get a little bit, wild in scrambles, or just kind of get tired and end up in a bad position and tap out. And he also is hittable on the feet. His striking isn't the best, so when guys can keep it standing, he could struggle in that aspect as well. So I just feel like Matheus Nicolau is better than him on the feet. I think on the ground, if he gets taken down, he can work back up and maybe even catch Elliott into submission if Elliott starts to get a little bit too over anxious trying to get the takedown and doesn't set him up as well, because Nicolau does have very good front chokes. And I feel like Nicolau is kind of reaching his prime. I think he's a very good fighter. He had a really good re-entry into the UFC against Manel Kape. I think his striking is going to be on point. I think he's going to be able to hurt Tim Elliott at one point and either take him out by TKO, or he's going to hurt him and Elliott's going to immediately shoot in and get caught in a submission. So I'm going to go with Matheus Nicolau to win this fight inside the distance. And we got the co-main event here with Randy Brown taking on Jared Gooden. And, kind of a bad co-main event here, but it's going to be a fun fight in my opinion. I think it's going to be a war. I mean, you got Jared Gooden, who I've kind of underestimated a little bit because he's not the most skilled guy. Like, you watch him fight and you kind of could say, like, oh, he's getting hit a lot. His takedown defense isn't there. But the thing about Jared Gooden is he has a lot of, good things about him as well. Like, he has a long reach, 77 inches. He's fast twitch. He has really good hand speed, and he's fearless, man. I mean, the guy's willing to get in the pocket and slip and rip with you. He has big power, and he has decent boxing, so he could be dangerous and he could finish you, and he proved that in his last fight against Nicolas Stolze. He knocked him out with one punch. And Gooden's also fairly durable. He could take it, and he's willing to take it and keep coming forward. We saw that in the Alan Jouban fight. But Gooden doesn't really have the, best feints. He also fights with his hands down. So against Alan Jouban, he really got picked apart, trying to come forward. Jouban used that good footwork and, kept him at range, pot-shotting him, landed some big shots, landed some big body shots as well. And you saw Abubakar Nurmagomedov just beat him up with that jab, man. Just touch him with the jab, Gooden, couldn't really have fast enough reactions, and Abubakar basically won the fight due to the jab. So with Randy Brown, he, in my opinion, is the significantly more skilled fighter. He's bigger. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage, or 3-inch height advantage. He's going to have the 1-inch reach advantage. In my opinion, he's a little bit faster with his footwork. He has much better feints and fakes. He has a wider arsenal of attacks in terms of, Gooden isn't a big kicker. Randy Brown has some really nice kicks up the middle, some kicks, round kicks. So he could mix it up. He has good knees. He does a good job of counter punching. Really tight, really good jab, good 1-2. But the issue with Randy Brown is, sometimes he can allow guys to pressure him and land some big shots on him, like Vicente Luque pressured, leg kicked, and went to work with shots over the top. And Gooden is going to have to mix in the leg kicks here. That's a big thing if he's going to get the victory. Gooden's going to have to pressure, low kicks. He's going to have to try to get Randy Brown in some exchanges, and that's where Randy Brown gets a little bit hittable, and that's where he could knock him out. And Randy Brown is going to want to try to be smart, fight technical, use a lot of feints, use a lot of fakes, work the jab a lot, try to work those body kicks, keep it long. And if you could try to even take down Jared Gooden, you could do that, because I think Randy Brown's actually an underrated grappler. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu. He has pretty decent takedowns. So I think that's something that Randy Brown could look to do as well if the pressure is starting to kind of mount on him. And he has a lot more high-level experience than Jared Gooden. I keep fading Jared Gooden. I mean, it worked the first 2 times. The last time against Nicolas Stolze, he made me pay for it. But I'm going to pick Randy Brown again. I just feel like he's a little bit more technical. He's longer. I think he's a little bit faster. I think he has the better ability to mix it up. Even though in his last fight, Jared Gooden did a good job of working his way into a nice takedown. He looked very explosive, and he looked good. He's coming back pretty quick after that fight as well. So I think Gooden is a live underdog. He's young. He obviously has some confidence probably coming off that knockout. And Randy Brown's a guy that has dropped the ball in the past and sometimes can, if, like, in this fight with Luque, he couldn't really make adjustments mid-fight. Like, it seems like he struggles with that. Like, if you could find that the leg kick is going to give him issues and keep going to it, you're probably going to have success. Or if you could figure out, if I'm landing this shot and just keep throwing it, he's probably not going to correct it. So that's something that maybe look for something that's working early and keep going back to it. But I'm going to still go with Randy Brown. I think it's a little bit too technical, a little bit too good, a little bit too experienced for Jared Gooden. And then finally we got the main event here. We got Marina Rodriguez. She's going to be taking on Mackenzie Dern. It's going to be the second main event in a row for Rodriguez. It's going to be the first main event ever for Mackenzie Dern. And Mackenzie Dern in her last fight, man, I mean, she was a big underdog, and I was really surprised by that line. Like, I was actually a pretty big bet that I made on Mackenzie Dern when she fought Nina Nunes, and a lot of people were picking Nina, man, very confidently, and I was very surprised by that because, man, I mean, Mackenzie Dern, in my opinion, is a big threat to the title, and she could, even move up and do some damage as well. I really do think, like, people underestimate Mackenzie a little bit, man. I mean, when you watched her fight in the past, like when she wasn't very good, wasn't that polished, you could still see, man, she was with it, man. She was ready to go. She was throwing bombs. She was eating shots. She was coming forward. She was not shy at all. And even when she was in bad shape, she was still doing that. Now she's very focused. You could see the significant change in her body. She's training with Trevor Whitman, and you could see her hands are improving quite significantly. She is very explosive, very good athlete, one of the best female athletes in the UFC, in my opinion. And she closes the gap, really fast hands. She has some power. She's improved with her straight shots. And she's getting better with her physicality. Like her strength conditioning program is improving. Her wrestling is improving. that single leg that she hit on Nunes was pretty nice in her last fight. She got on top, and when she gets on top, I mean, Mackenzie Dern is arguably the best jiu-jitsu girl of all time. I mean, she has already accomplished so much in one sport that, that's another thing that you can't overlook. I mean, if you reach the pinnacle of a certain sport, like where you're best of all time, close to best of all time, or around their status, at 25 years old or something, I mean, yeah, you're pretty phenomenal, man. And, so I just feel like people kind of, they see like she's a little bit unpolished in the past, or you could see these mistakes, like some girls, like, especially with female fighters, right? It's like Casey O'Neill as well, like last week. Like, you could see early on in their career they're getting hit a lot, or even more recent in their careers, but they can make a lot of substantial gaps, like close them with just sheer physicality, like the athleticism. And then when you have a skill set like Mackenzie Dern, where if you get it to the ground, you could dominate like that, and then you also have that ability on the feet to kind of not give a fuck, throw big punches, you're improving with your striking, and you have a good chin, good durability, you're big for the division, like she obviously could fight at 125 as well. You're going to have some success, man. You're going to do well, and I feel like Dern is going to roll through Marina Rodriguez. I really do. I think she's going to get this first-round submission. I think she's going to get the fight to the ground and, get her out of there. I mean, Marina Rodriguez, she's very good as well, Just talk about her a bit. I mean, she's obviously a really good Muay Thai striker, but I feel like even though she has some power, we saw her knock out Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas had been finished by strikes in the past. And, she hasn't really shown that knockout ability in her other fights. Even though she's really good in the clinch, with her knees, with her elbows, she has decent range striking where she does a good job of throwing straight shots, real good kicks. I feel like her kicks are going to be kind of holstered, or she's not going to throw them as much. Or if she does, she's going to get taken down off the kicks. So that's going to take away part of her game on the outside. And that's going to force her to have to get on the inside and box a little bit more, because Rodriguez isn't a girl that has great footwork, that's going to move around on the outside and pick someone apart. She has that Muay Thai style, come forward, flat-footed, stay in your face, and try to beat you up. And Dern, in my opinion, is actually going to have the faster hands and the faster feet. I think she's going to be able to close that gap, even land some good shots on her feet standing, get the takedown, and find that submission, man. I think she's going to make it look easy in this one, and I think Dern's a real threat, man. I think she's going to be someone that could potentially be a future world champion, and, I'm pretty confident that she's going to be able to go out here and kind of get a dominant victory over Marina Rodriguez and kind of turn a lot of people's heads again and show them, she's close to that championship level. So I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern, and feel like she's going to make it look fairly easy here. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the full breakdown of the full 10-fight card. It's a real light card this week, not that many fights, but hopefully we could win some money again this week. And like I said at the top of the video, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's try to hit 200 likes on this video. If you want to check out the Patreon, it's going to be down below in the comment section pin. It's going to be in the description. Been doing really well with Contender Series 6 for 6 so far. We won 7.5 units yesterday. We won, I believe, the last 3 UFC cards as well. So been doing really well recently, and hopefully we can continue that trend this week. And yeah, guys, so if you want to check out the Patreon for more content, for my bets, for everything like that, check that out for Contender Series next week. There's, I believe, 10 weeks of that. And as far as the parlay of the week and my most confident pick for this card, my parlay of the week is going to be Alexander Romanov and Matheus Nicolau. And for my most confident pick, it's going to be Alexander Romanov. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, make sure to share it, like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later.